What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Everyday Means Everyday. I'm your host, Brandon Burns, and today I have just a good friend of mine, man. Like, I think something that's super special about this podcast is the way I'm running it. I'm not as concerned about getting some A-list big guests. I'm sure as we evolve, that'll become a part of it, but I always want the core focus of this thing to be people that I genuinely love, trust, believe in, and I think that they got a good message to share. So this is an individual we're about to bring on who has just poured into my life, super inspirational. And I tell you, the last time that we got together for a conversation, it was at his barbershop in Arkansas, and it was legendary. So if you haven't already seen the first interview, podcast, conversation, whatever you want to call it, with brother Mike Shelton, be sure to go check it out on the channel. But Mike, welcome back again to
man.
the show.
Glad to be here, bro. And listen, man, don't ever disrespect me again. I am an A-list. I am all of them. You could have had Jay pick me today instead. So I'm real humbled. I feel real good about it.
Oh, man, I love it.
Glad to be here, bro.
Man, well, you're on your way to A-list with the stuff you're doing down there in Arkansas. I mean, you got NIL, you got speaking, you're at the university right now. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Yeah, man, just own several businesses with my brother, like barbershops. We own an NIL company with my wife, my partner John, and his wife Crystal. It's called Guiding Light Sports Agency. And, man, just staying busy, man, just going to school, speaking to kids, man, just motivating them, letting them know that, hey, anything is possible. Whatever you put your mind to, you can do it, So it's just, man, living a dream. Like, I have no complaints at all.
Man. Now, talk to me a little bit about how you grew up. Usually I kind of get to this part, like the whole backstory. I try and get to that later on in these episodes. But with you, man, I saw the video, so I'm spoiled.
Yeah.
Like, I saw the video. I don't know if you can tell the audience where to go find it, but man, there's this video out there on YouTube of Mike showing his old home where he grew up at.
Yeah.
And it is just so impactful. So talk us through a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. Never knew who my father was. Born and raised in Fort Smith, Arkansas. My mother had me when she was 16. Like I said, she was a cocaine dealer. She would traffic cocaine in the 80s from Miami to Arkansas. She got busted, and I got put in foster care. And my grandmother came and got us out and just grew up, man, just really just in what a lot of people would call the projects, the hood, whatever you want to call it. And just always knew that there was more for me in life than what was my surroundings. I ended up getting mentors and just really just was the first one to graduate in my family, go to high school, the first one to go to college, the first one to start a business. So it's just a lot of that type of stuff, really. Just one of those, if you listen to like a lot of hip hop music, like a lot of that stuff, my brothers, they're all, they was all, not my baby brother, but my middle brother, he was gang related. He ended up getting murdered. My cousin was murdered. My mom died from an overdose. So just, man, it's one of those things, like I just decided to be who God created me to be. And he put great men in my life in a certain time in my life that was so super crucial, to mentor me and to lead me and to guide me. And so, yeah, man, I'm here because of great people, because of the Lord. Like, I'm not one of these people ashamed to say it, not to be preaching on your podcast or nothing, but, just my truth is my truth, and so I love it, man. That's why I'm here.
So first of all, where can people go watch that video where they can see your old house?
Yeah, Coach Shelton. I believe it's Coach Shelton on Instagram. Just type in Mike Shelton. I believe my handle is Coach Shelton. I know I have Arkansas Barber on there. It's on both of them. But you can actually go to CoachShelton.com and you can see the videos on there as well and check it all out. But yeah, it went to real in depth. It was kind of like a mini documentary, if you will, of the house that I grew up in. It just kind of just shows you some of the things that I went through. I went into a little bit deeper in the stories and just the story of overcoming, and just that whatever you set your mind to, you put in the work and you allow God to lead you and guide you, that anything is possible in this world, because we are overcomers. We don't have to become what society says, what our neighborhoods say, what people around us are doing. Like, we can actually be who God created us to be, and the things that he's put into our lives, into our spirit, and how he wired us. Those things can actually become a reality. The things that's the invisible, in which we can't see in the physical, we can actually manifest those things, man, and be whom God created us to be. And so I just talk about a lot of that type of stuff and really just want to pour into the generation, man, just to let them know it's like, hey, you got this. It doesn't matter who your parents are. It doesn't matter what your last name is. just allow God to use you, and allow him to elevate you, and those things that you do dream about, and those things that you want to do and who you want to become, regardless of your surroundings. Like, just find you a mentor, allow God to lead you, and you do the action steps, man. You're an overcomer. Like, all of us are. So
Yeah, yeah, and I really, really, really recommend anybody that's watching or listening right now, go check out that video because it adds so much depth and context to the story when you can see it like that. Mike, so what age did you go into foster care?
6 or 7.
Okay.
I was young, man. Like, I was super young. Like, I vaguely remember the people. It was an older couple. Couldn't tell you the name. Couldn't tell you none of that. I just remember I was there for a
Mm,
little bit, and then my grandmother, I remember she picked us up one day, and that was really the end of it. But I don't remember how long we was there. It just felt like it was a flash. Thank God, you know what I mean? Like, and again, the people didn't harm me. They didn't do anything weird or anything like that. But it's just, one minute you're sitting there in your house asleep, and the feds raid your house, and they find all
mm,
this money. They found about $60,000 in cash,
wow.
cocaine in the beds, and next thing you know, you go from that, and the police picking you up with AKs and masks, and you wake up
Wow.
and you're at the whatever, the holding, that whatever, DHS or whatever it's called,
Mm,
and the next thing you know, you're at somebody else's house. So it was such a flash, man. Like, but like I said, it's still part of the story. I love talking about it because, again, man, like, man, it doesn't matter. Like, bro, God can use everything that's bad for our good, and that's really what I really focus on, rather than just trying to have a message of woe is me. It's more of a message of mighty is he and greater is he that is in me,
mm.
he that is in the world, and so that's really what I stand on, man. I stand on business, as the young people say. My sons say, I stand on business, daddy. And so
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Did you know what was going on like before she got caught? Did you know about everything or not really?
man, I'll be honest with you. I knew my mom had to be doing something. Cause bro, we went from like poor to hood rich real quick is what we call it. And I remember telling you the story in that pod that we did a year or so ago, where I just remember going to a store, and I asked my mama, "You remember them little bitty plastic pools that everybody wanted, like
Hmm.
$10 at Walmart or something? They was always
Yeah.
outside the store." I was like, "Mama, can we afford one of them pools?" And I just remember her saying, "Baby, we can buy all these damn pools." And she pulled out like a brick of money, bro. I was like, "Whoa, we're rich," you know what I mean? But it's like, I didn't know where she was getting the money at, but I knew she didn't have a job, So
Mm,
it was just
yeah.
like it was coming from somewhere, And so, yeah,
Man, yeah, that reminds me of back in Huntsville, Alabama. There's this neighborhood right off of University Drive, and it's not really the projects, but it's the government assisted housing. And I
yeah.
remember one day, me and my dad drove by there, and there's a Lamborghini parked. It's this bright green Lamborghini parked out front, and I was like, wait a minute, one of these things does not belong. Like something's going on here,
Oh yeah,
man.
oh yeah.
So yeah. So where did the drive come from? Because when I hear you talk, it's so uplifting. It's so positive. Everything that you talk about, everything that I've heard you talk about, you're super positive about everything. So where did that come from? Because I feel like a lot of people, if they found themselves in that environment or that situation, there's some family stuff going on, there's some financial issues going on, there's all this stuff happening. Even as a young kid, it sounds like you were willing to make that decision and just say, "Hey, this is not going to be the ending of my story." Where did that conviction come from at such an early age?
Man, I'll tell you a crazy story. I remember when my mother came home from prison, and she was getting custody of us from my grandmother, and well, I forget the lady's name. Let's just call her Mrs. Jefferson. I don't know. We went to her office, and my mother was getting us back. I guess she proved herself that she was clean. She wasn't doing, wild stuff no more. And I remember I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. And I just remember her saying, she pointed at me and she said, "Deanna, if you don't stop selling drugs, if you don't stop doing drugs, if you don't stop letting Mike see you being beat on by other men, and you living a certain life, that when he grows up, he's going to sell drugs. He's going to do drugs. He's going to beat on women. He's going to be in and out of prison." And I just remember, man, as an 8-year-old kid, 7-year-old kid, I would just remember these labels that she was trying to put on me. You know what I mean? And as a kid, I remember my mother kind of got frustrated with me at the end, because I looked at her and I said, "No, I'm not." I corrected her. I said, "I'm not going to
Mm,
sell drugs. I'm not going to do dope. I'm not going to beat on my my spouse, or I'm not going to live that life. And I just remember, like, even though she tried to label me, I just remember in my mind, I made a decision as a young man. It was just like, man, no, like, I know there's more for me. Like, I don't want to live this life. I seen the hurt that it gave me at such an early age of having to go through all of that with the foster care stuff and my grandmother fighting to get us back. And I just remember, man, like, yo, like, this ain't it. Like, and I'm gonna make sure whatever I do in life that I don't find myself in my mother's position on the other side of this table, regardless of what and I understood the lady was trying to give my mother a message, but I wanted her to know that I wasn't going to be in an agreement or an
Mm.
alignment with everything she just said, that actually I'm gonna do the opposite. And so, man, it's crazy it sounds, but I literally came up with that right there on the spot. And I just remember getting in the car. My
Wow.
mother was like, why did you have to say that to her and this and that? And I was just like, Mom, like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be that, you know? And so at a young age, man, like, my grandmother used to tell me all the time, like, you're going to speak to the world. Like, you got a voice, you got a message. And my grandmother used to always pray for me
Mm.
and keep me focused. So, I mean, honestly, my grandmother, the foundation has always been Jesus, God, just the will that God has for you is so much greater than what your will for yourself is, Mike. Even though you came from these type of surroundings and these environments, like, you do not have to be that. Like, you can't pick and choose who your parents are, but you can pick and choose daily what you do with your actions and with your thoughts. And so I learned
Mm.
that at a very young age, man. It's like, yo, my escape, like, my way out of this is me doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing that I'm sitting here watching daily. Because obviously
Mm.
the Bible talks about for the wages of sin is death, and so, like, I'm seeing them go to prison, I'm seeing them do all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, man, I don't want to live that life, And so it
Mm.
was really at an early age, man. I just felt called from an early age because my grandmother spoke things into my life. And thank God for people like her and, mentors that we all have, that God puts in our lives that speaks into our lives. And, man, once we come into an agreement of what God has called us to do, even when we can't see it, other people can see it. Like, I'm sure even when you was a kid, Brandon, like, people saw things in you didn't even see in yourself yet,
Yeah.
And so they start to call those things out. And that's what my grandmother did with me my whole life that I lived with her. She would call those things out in me. She was like, look, I know you're going to go out there and you're going to see a lot of stuff today when you go outside. Like, I'm just telling you, you're going to see this, and this. That's not you. And then she would
Mm.
pray over me. And bro, like, I would just, as I was going throughout my day, whenever situations would arise that I could easily fall into them, I just remember grandma saying, that's not you. Like,
Mm.
you're set apart. Like the plan that God has for you, this ain't it. This right here is just for a season. This is going to be until you get to a certain age, and God's going to elevate you because He has such an anointing and a calling on your life that, man, if you just stick to the course, Mike, and not give in to all this trash, bro, the world gonna know about you. And my grandma used to just say that, and I believed it. Like, I came into an agreement with that.
How did you how did you get the conviction and the assurity of those ideas though? Because before you had mentioned that about your grandma, the question I was about to ask you was, how did you know better? Like, how did you even know that there was an alternative to that life? I think you answered it there. Your grandma was really pouring into you and showing you the opposite side of what life could be like, right? So I get that. But I'm just thinking, man, as a kid, as a young kid, on one hand, you see easy, fast money. And obviously, you saw the risks that came with it, but
Mhm.
you did see, like you said, hood rich. Like, you saw the benefit of that at a certain point as well. So, what was it that like allowed you to stay strong in that faith and that belief of, no, 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 I get that this is attractive, but this is the path that I'm meant for and that I'm going to go down.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I think really what it boils down to, Brandon, is that I realized it's like, yo, like, this stuff right here, this stuff only lasts for a season. Eventually, you're gonna get caught. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, you're gonna get caught. Like, I don't know any of my friends, family that's ever dibbled and dabbled in the dope game, done drugs and all that stuff to where they never got caught. You know what
Mm.
I mean? And so, like, for me, it was like, I know what that right there leads to, and I know I don't want that for me. Now, here goes, this is me right here. I used to always love this in school. Don't know why. To this day, I'm still the mystery guy. Like, do you want what's behind door number one? It's this. Number two is this. Or number three, we ain't gonna tell you. You know what I mean? But it's like, it could be bigger than two and one. Or, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, for me, the mystery of, okay, I know if I sell drugs, do what my mama's doing, what my uncles is doing, my brother was doing, my cousins is doing. I know what that's going to lead me to. I know. But
Yeah.
this thing that God has called me to do, this plan that God has for me, yeah, I'm 10, yeah, I'm 11, yeah, I'm 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. I may not truly understand it, but I really was caught up in like just the mystic of like what God could do in my life. Like, what can He do if I
Yeah.
submit to that? And it's like it has to be better than this, you know. Like,
Yeah.
whatever that may look like. Like I can live with it. I can stand on this. I can't stand in this because this is the reality. Man, I remember when we was in junior high, they took us to they just took the whole class. I didn't do anything wrong. You remember that Scared Straight where they take the kids
Oh
to the
yeah.
jails?
Oh yeah.
Man,
My mom threatened to put me on that show about 78 times when I was a kid. She was like,
yeah,
"I'm gonna sign you up for Scared Straight."
yeah. So like, bro, like they took us, and I just never forget, man. I was like, man, their little living quarters in here the size of my bathroom. I could touch the walls doing this, and I was like,
Oh.
I like my space. I like this. This ain't for me. Like, they're like they're being told when to eat, told when to go to sleep. I'm just like,
Mhm.
man, it is not, no, sir. I don't want nothing to do with this right here. So yeah, I just think it was just the mystery of God, man, knowing that, as my grandmother would read the word over my life and speak things into my life and tell me about the Holy Spirit and how to be led by the Spirit and not by the flesh, not by the things that I want daily, because we all are led by the Spirit if we allow it to. We all have certain things, certain devices. That bro, if we just take that left, we can go left easy. You know what I mean? All of us.
Mhm.
And I just realized I was just like, yo, like I'm cool on that. Like I'm gonna trust God because what He has for me is way better, way bigger, way doper than what I could ever come up for myself.
Mm. Man, that makes me think about how something I say in schools all the time whenever I'm speaking at schools is I hate how patronizing society is to young people.
Yeah,
Especially when I'm talking to high schoolers, it's like people will act like you cannot make your own decisions. You can literally in high school or younger. I mean, we're talking about you made some decisions at 9, 10, 11 years old that literally dictated the trajectory of your entire life.
yeah.
And I think people don't give kids enough credit for that. Like
Um,
kids can process, kids can understand, and kids can make decisions. And at the end of the day, we can talk all day long about, yeah, you got to be 18 before you can start making decisions that are alter the course. The dude on the block doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about how old you are. If you're 13 and you're ready to start selling, he's gonna give you some
man,
like that's how it works in the real world. And
right.
so if we don't start preparing people early enough, right? Reading that word over them, speaking life into them, it leaves such a gap. And all of the programming is like, oh no, when you turn 16, we're going to teach you about this. When you turn 18, we'll teach you about this. When you graduate college, what if you don't make it that far?
Hey, you, you may not. And I think the biggest thing is that, excuse me, is that I was led by the Spirit. I submitted my life to God. You know what I mean? And so it's not going to make sense to a physical mind, a physical brain. Like, why
Mm.
is this kid at 15, 16 years old already preaching at youth conferences? Like, bro, I was preaching at youth
Mm.
conferences at 15 and 16. I mean, all over the state of Arkansas, people bringing me in. Like this, it don't make sense that Mike is at the biggest school in Fort Smith and he's doing. I remember back in the day they had this song by Master P. Man, I'm giving my age away right now. It was called "Bout It," and "Bout It" meant like you was down to do whatever, no matter what the cost was. And I remember I started. I put together with a crayon, bro, these signs that said "Is you about it?" And I just started putting them all over the school, like all over the school. And then like everybody started telling me, "What's this about it? What's this?" And I said, "Man, like, are you about what God has called you to do for your life?" And I just started doing these little campaigns,
Wow.
and I'd walk around, I'd be like, "Is you about it?" Because I'm about it. Then I'd be like, "For Jesus." And I'd always be like, "For Jesus." And like, I know some people like, man, that is the wackest thing. That is so corny. But what I did was, man, like, I think that's why I always looked up to ET and still do to this day. Like, man, I'm a part of one of his coaching things right now, the UOU 365. So any of y'all that need to get in that joker, it's well worth the money. It's off the chain. But like, I always use hip hop in high school to
Mm.
reach people and take the message and try to make it make sense to them in their own way. And yeah, man, I just try to be creative, bro. To be honest with you, to reach people in different ways because everybody is yearning to be who they feel like they need to be. You know, everybody is
Mm.
yearning to be used. Everybody wants to do certain things. It's just some people just don't have the tools, man. They don't have the people speaking into their lives. And so I tried to be that guy from an early age, man. And so like I've always stood out my whole life just because I submitted to God at such an early age. You know, I remember when I gave my life to God, I'll never forget it. He said, I will take you places you never thought you would go. He said, I'll let you do things you never thought you would do. And he said, I'll let you see things you never thought you would see. And I heard
Mm.
that as if I'm sitting here talking to you like an audible voice in my head. And I feel like it was so real that if a million people would have been in the room, they would have heard it, you know? And so,
Mm.
man, I've just hung on to that. Even in my life right now, bro, when things aren't going the way that I want them to go, I have to remember that God has got me. Like it may not be the way I want it to be. It may not look like the way I want it to look. But at the end of the day, like I'm still in his hand. He still called me. He still set me apart. And that he is the one that's guiding me and it's not me because I can't lean on me. I have to lean on him. And so that's the reason why I've been able to do what I've done, man. And it's all because of him. It ain't got nothing to do with me because if it was left up to me, bro, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I had to make the action, the decision, but
Mm.
he's the one that paved the way. And all I had to do was just follow that little triangle like on the maps whenever
Yep.
you type it in your car, you know, to the destination. And he's never left me, never forsook me, nothing. Like he is batting 1,000 right now as we speak, and I don't foresee him missing. I don't. He can't miss.
How do you stay close to God? How do you reinforce your spirituality? Because I had a very, very similar experience when I first started working with ET. It was probably within the first 7 or 8 months of me working for him, and he was bringing me on the road with him a lot at that point. And there was this big corporate gig, three, maybe 4,000 people in the audience, big elevated stage, jumbotrons on center, and then one on each side. And I always stood up when ET spoke. I still do most of the time when he's out at a gig, just out of respect
For
and all the
sure.
opportunities he's given me, And so I was standing, and I was just to the side of the stage. So if E was right in front of me, I was right here. Audience is over here to the side, and exactly what you just described. Everything. It's almost like in a movie when people have that out of body experience, or like somebody's underwater, like the noise just fades away.
Yeah.
And I heard God say, and I was never that guy because I was
Yeah.
not like that when I was that age, right? Like I didn't really find my faith and spirituality till I was 21, 22.
Yeah.
So you got it way, way earlier than I did. And I was never oh, God spoke to me and God said, I thought that was corny. Like growing
Right.
up, I was just like, oh, that's corny. So I was never the person to say that.
Yeah.
And then just like you said, clear as day, I heard, why do you think I brought you this close?
Yeah.
Because I had so much reservation and trepidation about speaking and me being the one out front. I was so terrified of that. I never thought that was in the cards for me. I never thought I had a message worth sharing. And then that was the moment where God was like, dude, what, why do you think that you're here?
Mm.
And I keep going back to that. When things get difficult, I keep going back to that. When business is tough, keep going back to that. Keep going back to that. So what is your anchor in that spiritual realm that you keep going back to? Or what is that practice where you keep that energy and that closeness to God?
Man, that's a great question, B. I think really what it boils down to is I realize that if I don't stay connected to the source, bro, I am going to fail miserably. I'm going to fail in my relationships. I'm going to fail in my businesses. I'm going to fail everywhere. My wife, my son, my barbers, you know what I mean? Like, bro, just the speaking, like, man, I have to stay connected because if I don't, I am going to mess this up. Like, because I will, you know what I mean? And so I have to stay connected to the thing, to the one, to the source that is literally keeping me going. That's just like the little Energizer bunny. I don't care how dope that little dude is. If you take that battery out of his back, that dude
Mm-hmm.
cannot walk around doing this right here no more. Like he out of there. You know what I mean? So he has to stay connected with a battery. And my battery in my back is God. Like, and so if I disconnect from that, it's a wrap. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna fall flat on my face. And so, man, that's I try to read every day. I pray every day. I go for walks. You know, I just put on, man, literally when I walk, man, like God has showed me now, when I walk my first 30 minutes, he spoke this to me yesterday. I have these noise cancellation headphones on. And
Mm.
I usually got music going, or I'm listening to ET, or I'm listening something motivational like a book, you know, audio book or something. yesterday he said the first 30 minutes, I just want you to block out the noise. I just want you, nothing, but I just want you to not hear nothing so you can hear me.
Mm,
And
that's
so he's
good.
and the Lord showed me, he was like, yo, you've got on noise cancellation headphones, but yet you still letting the noise in. you know,
By choice.
right? Like you letting the
Wow.
noise in. And so, bro, I've had to get to the place, man. I've got to, yeah. That was a free one. Like I got
Got me excited.
I got to get to the place, bro, where I've got to like be intentional with not letting the noise in, because
Mm,
noise is distraction, and I have to be able to have undivided attention with him, because he's trying to download things into me every day. You know what I mean? And so if I'm not receiving the downloads, then the outcome of that is I'm walking in Mike Shelton and
mm.
what I want to do that day, my vision for that day. I'm not walking in God's anointing, God's vision, what he's called me to walk into that day. And so those are the things that I have to try to do daily, is be focused on that and allow him to speak those things into me, so that way I know how to put forth the action in which the words that he's put into me.
Man, so you blocked out the noise, but you just replaced the noise with your preferred noise.
Man,
It's still noise.
yeah.
You just invited in a particular type of noise that you have a preference to.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's
Yep.
good. That's good. That's good. Okay, talk to me about mentors. You've mentioned that a couple of times. Obviously, your grandmother sounds like she was right up there, first place
Mm-hmm.
in mentoring young Mike. Who were some other individuals that helped you out, and what was that process like? I mean, where'd you find them? What did they teach you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, first and foremost, my grandmother. After that, it was Jerry Underwood. Really, those were probably the two biggest, for that point in my life. Jerry Underwood, he's my pastor to this day, like a father figure to me, because like I said, I never knew who my father was, so he took me underneath his shoulder. I mean, his guidance, his leadership. He's the one single handedly that would like put his foot in my backside.
Okay.
And so like those two right there, man. I've even actually, my wife and I named my son after him. His middle name was Ray. And so we actually named my son after him. Gave him the same middle name as him, just to kind of honor him. But those two were the main ones, man. Because like I said, both of them. The beautiful thing about both of them is they both had that spiritual aspect to it, though. Whereas Grandma was always speaking into my life, praying over me, reading the Bible to me, telling me things. Hey, you need to. Hey, God's got you. Jesus is leading you. Blah blah blah. And then Pastor Jerry, he would just, like I say, he put that little 10 and a half, 11 size shoe he got in your back. But I needed it, because I needed like that tough love, because I was raised, without a like my father in my life. I had a stepdad,
Mm,
you know what I mean, and I love him to death, man. He's from another country, so there was always like a little bit of a language barrier there, and he loved me the best way he could. His thing was, he just told me go work hard, and he would
mm,
provide. But it wasn't no like emotional, it wasn't no none of that, no spiritual. It was just more like he took care of the house, and I'm grateful for that. So again, not taking nothing away from him at all, but it wasn't nothing that molded me into who I am as a man, other than go hard, because I risked my life to get to the United States, and you guys that
yeah.
are here, you're not going to take advantage when there's people dying to get here to live this life. And so I appreciate him for that, but definitely my grandmother and Pastor Jerry for sure.
How do you find those mentors? Like, if somebody's watching and they're like, okay, maybe I didn't have a grandmother like that was already in my life, but I need to go find my Pastor Jerry. I need to go
Yeah,
find my ET, right? For me, how can somebody go find that mentor in their life?
man, I'll be honest with you, man. Like I didn't even go look for it. That's the crazy
Mm,
part. Like God brought them to me, And what I'm saying is this: is that when I submitted my life to God, and I accepted everything He had for me, and I was open to what it was, I started finding out that I'm putting myself in different scenarios, in different rooms with different types of people, and then
yep.
God sends those people while you're in those rooms to mentor you. To you, maybe you might mentor them. So it's just, I met Pastor Jerry, man. It's crazy. Like we used to go, we called it neighborhood park, because where I'm from, neighborhood Crips is real big.
Mm,
And we would be out there playing basketball, and they kept having this white man, little short white man, coming up and playing basketball with us all the time, man. And he would never told us he was a pastor. It wasn't on no, hey, I'll play basketball with y'all if y'all go to church with me. Like it wasn't no like no salesmanship, going on ship SHIP. I got my accents. I want to make sure everybody knows salesmanship with a P, salesman stuff. And man, like I didn't even know he was a pastor until probably about 2 or 3 months later. It wasn't no like him trying to set us up, and man, he would just love on us, and he would just talk to us, say, "Hey, how's your day going? What? Tell me something you need some help with. Like, is there anything you're thinking about?" Like he was just like getting to know the person, and God used him to develop a relationship with us. And then one day he was like, "Hey guys, listen, I pastor a church on the south side of town. Which, if you know anything about Fort Smith, Arkansas, where I'm from." I lived on the north side of town. The south side is where the money was at. That's where you wanted to live. That was the dream, back at home. Like I want to live on the south side of town. So for the fact that he was even coming across Rogers Avenue to come kick it with us, that was a big deal anyway. Because people on that side, when I was growing up, didn't come to our side, and we didn't go over there because, bro, you could tell by looking at us, we wasn't from there, And so it was always awkward when we would go to that part. And so he was like, "Hey guys, I pastor a church on the south side of town. I know y'all ain't gonna be able to get a ride there. I will come pick y'all up." And so, man, he just started picking us up like every Wednesday, every Sunday. And then it got to the point to where once my grandmother got to know him, he was like, "Hey, Miss Judy, if Mike wants to come to my house and be with me, my wife, and my kids after church, and then he can come back to church, Sunday night, I'll bring him home." So I would start staying with him all day on Sundays, and we would just sit there and hang out, and he would pour into me. And just teach me life, really, and then teach me a lot of like things. When I say life, just guidance, but then also just the whole thing of understanding God. Do you have any questions about Scripture? He would break down the Scripture to me, and so that's just how it came about, man. To be honest with you, and to this day, man, we tight. Like, we talk all the time, like to this day, as they say. How that mean?
Man, that's so important though, because people need to understand that when you get in the right, I don't even want to say when you get in the right places, when you get in alignment with your calling, right? And whether you're conceptualizing this, like obviously we're both men of faith, so we're going to conceptualize this in terms of when you get into God's calling and God's purpose for your life. Even if you want to take it, you feel a whisper from the universe, right? Yeah. Whatever you believe in, right? If you get in alignment with that, the people that you need to support and help build that will come into your life. Case 100%. In point, I literally had a conversation 45 minutes before. So that was why I was going to delay the podcast a little bit, because I didn't know exactly when this guy was going to call me. And I'm going to change names and titles and all that good stuff to protect anonymity. But obviously I do some commentating work on live television for the sport of gymnastics. And I called somebody at the network that I do a lot of work with. And I said, "Hey, I'm interested in getting into, just different avenues of television, hosting, whether it be talk shows, whether it be, I was telling him like, man, I've watched Ryan Seacrest make $40 million a year doing something that I can do just as good. I'm like, this is frustrating to me. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, but I just don't know that world. Like I've spoken in front of thousands of people. I've done a bunch of podcasts. I've done YouTube. I've done, live commentating. I've done all the different pieces, but man, from your experience, what would you do if you were in my shoes to break into that next level of the hosting world?" And he said, "Well, I would go give this agency a call."
Yeah.
This is why I can't say it yet because it's not public, but
right.
Guess who just started working with said agency? A man by the name of Eric Thomas.
Let's go.
And so guess who already has relationships and contacts with that agency? And again, I'm not saying that like you could look at that as like, okay, well, yeah, you privileged because of the job that you have and the work that you do. So therefore you got access to people most people don't have. That job came from a 6-month internship for free that I turned down a real job for, right? And it forced me to face my biggest fear, which was public speaking.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like by following God's orders and being obedient to the vision that he gave me and what he showed me and where he wanted me to go. Now, all of a sudden, the pieces just come together so easily. And like you said, you don't necessarily have to go out there and get them.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, you were still showing up in places where you made yourself available for a miracle to take place. Like that's what ET always talks about, putting yourself in miracle territory. Yeah. I don't get these people that they want their life to change and you stay at home and sit on the couch. Right. Nobody's knocking on your door. Right. I mean, maybe God can go wherever, but maybe, but more than likely, you're gonna have to get out the house. So
Yeah,
I
they went
love that story.
on the what's that old man? He used to show up with all the balloons, the winter sweepstakes or something like. Ed McMahon, they wait on Ed McMahon to show up. That ain't happening. I need to
You're
plug
sitting there waiting.
bro. That's what she does for a living is speaking, and she does hosting shows. She just got back from Hollywood, man. She hosted the Chosen out there on the red carpet in Hollywood, man. So she's doing a lot of that stuff. I got to plug y'all. That's you can edit that part out, but I'll just selfless plug right there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk entrepreneurship a little bit. This audience is obviously a lot of personal development folks,
Yeah.
but entrepreneurship is still a big part of that. So how old are you when you get linked up with Pastor?
12,
Okay,
11.
so you're still super, super young. Yeah. So
Mhm.
talk me through like what happens after this. Do you go to school? Do you go to college? I know you got into barbering. How's all this transpire?
Yeah. So I always wanted to go to the U of A here in Arkansas, but it didn't work out. I felt like God told me to go to Southwestern Assemblies of God University of Sagu. It's in Waxahachie, Texas. Um, I realized real quick college wasn't for me. Like I knew I went there. I still got relationships to this day that I created when I was down there. I was one of these guys, man. To be honest with you, I've been to 3 colleges and I still got 0 credits to this day. What I'm saying? But man, I realized real fast that hey, I walked through the door, it wasn't for me. And then I realized that I've always had a knack for like building things. I've always loved like taking something and flipping it. Like I've always just been like, but the speaking thing honestly was the biggest thing I've always done. So I've always stayed close to that. But I ended up getting to I did music for years. I actually traveled and toured for like about 12 to 13 years. And I had a song
Mm.
back in the day. It was called "Who Got That Fire." It blew up, and I was on tour with people like Paul Wall, Chameleonaire, Nappy Roots.
Oh.
Man, if you was early 2000s rap, Speedy Pablo, I did shows with all of those guys back in the day. And so,
How old were you when that was taking place?
probably about 20, 21. Yeah,
Okay, hold up. Pause.
yeah.
How did you not like? Because that is the quintessential story of success gone wrong, right? You're an artist, you're a creative being,
Mhm,
and then you have something that blows up. You're
mhm,
on tour with the biggest celebrities of that time.
right.
Why are you not addicted to drugs and dead?
Because you know what? This is the funny part right here. If you really want me to be honest with you, so I wrote this song called "Who Got That Fire," and people, this is a true story because I had people come up to me after the shows. They always thought I was talking about weed and drugs, and I wasn't. I was talking about the Holy Spirit. And so the way that I did it, it was so creative and so catchy that like people literally thought I was talking about doing drugs, and I wasn't. If you actually, that's how I know they didn't listen to the lyrics. They just listened to the beat,
They just
and
like the beat.
that's it. Like, and so, man, so it was crazy because I was a Christian rapper. But the thing is, I never like just sat out there and just put that on my name. So like when
Mm.
people would be on tour, and they would come to Charlotte, they'd be like, "Hey, Nappy Roots is going to be here tonight. Do you want to come open up for him?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" Like so I'm on stage for 10,000 people. Who got that fire? I got that fire. And I'm just going crazy and all this stuff. But man, again, it was just the Lord put me in these positions. It put me on these stages, and I was always able to tell my story. So like people when
Mm.
I'm in there at the table, at the merch table, I'm talking to people and they're like, "Man, I love that song, bro. Man, I do this whenever I'm listening to that song." And I'm like, "Man, that ain't even what the song's about, bro." Like, so I start telling them,
Wow.
like, they're like, "What you mean?" And then I just start explaining to them the song, and then they're like, "Man, that's creative as all get out, bro. That you know finessed us all thinking it was something else." And I'm like, "No, you just
So
ain't listening." Like
So
that's
you
all.
never got tempted though, like because I know when you're on the road like that, I mean, there's temptations all around you. You never got tempted. I mean, how'd you deal with that?
Man, I'll be honest with you. No, I mean, the temptation I think is always there, but I'll be honest with you, man. I feel like because I got married at an early age. I was like 22, almost 23 when I got married.
Ah, okay, now that makes sense.
And so, like, bro, I mean, that don't mean the temptation ain't there, but it was just like, bro, I knew that for me, it was bigger than me wanting to blah 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 in that moment, or whatever the case may be. And to be cool about the whole situation is that most of my shows, I'd say 80% of my shows were churches. So I would go like on a church tour.
Wow.
And so you ain't got, I mean, I mean, they're there, but it ain't like you in a secular arena where
Yeah.
everybody ain't thinking about Jesus. So it ain't. It honestly, like, again, God protected me. You know, and there
Mm.
was situations, but I didn't even entertain it, bro. Like, it's just because I knew I always, one of my goals was always to be married, to not get divorced, to have a great life with a wife and a son and a family. And so for me, it just, I wasn't going to give up that for a small pleasure right now, you know, because I couldn't come home and look at my wife and my son knowing that I'm, sinned against them, you know what I'm saying? But then obviously I sinned against myself, you know, so it just always kept me like straight. And I'm grateful that God always,
Yeah.
that's the thing, man. The reality is with every temptation, we got to realize there's always a way out, man. Like, there's no way you can stand before God and be like, oh God, there was no way I couldn't do that. No, he always provides a way. You just got to find it. And so
Yeah.
you just got to find it. And there's always a way out. God is always going to be Harriet Tubman with the light and lead you, get you, get you out of there. You know what I mean? So it's just, you got to look for it though.
Man,
And
I mean, I think the big thing that's sticking out for me right there is just the clarity that you had. I think most people end up falling into negative situations. Again, I talk at schools a lot, and that's one thing that I tell people is like, you are entering a time of your life like 15 to 25, like that decade right there. You
yeah,
got all the freedom, all the control, all the power. You can do whatever you want to do for the first time.
man,
And a lot of new options open up to you, stuff that you didn't have access to at 12, you got access to at, 18. And
100%.
it's like, if you don't have clarity on what kind of life you want to create, you open the door for somebody else to tell you, oh,
That's
no,
right.
no, it's cool. It's not a problem. Everybody's doing this. Right. And it's like, do you really want to put your future in somebody else's hands like that? But the
Man,
fact that you had that clarity, like you knew exactly what you wanted. Like, nope, I got a wife. I want kids. I want my family to be intact. I want this to be strong. I don't want to put my mind, my body in a crazy situation. Like, I know what I want. And again, college students especially, I always tell them, I don't care anything about your grades. And this, if you're listening to this right now, thinking about booking me out of school, put this on mute for the next 30 seconds. I always say, I don't care about your grades because I've lived in the real world and I've done that. Like, I've done the higher education thing, 2 degrees from Michigan. Like, I get it. But in the real world, it does not matter a quarter as much as you think it does.
right,
What matters is if you can get out of college and you know who you are and what you want, you're ahead of 99% of, forget 20-year-olds. If you know
yeah,
who you are and you know what you want, you're ahead of most 30, 40, 50-year-olds. And it's
100%.
like most people don't have that. So where did that clarity come from for you? Was it just the contrast of seeing, here's what I don't want? Or was this a logical process? Like, how'd you get that?
Man, listen, it's one of my favorite scriptures. It's Habakkuk chapter 3. The Bible talks about writing the vision down and making it plain. And bro, once you write that vision down, once you hear from God, once you download from him of what it is that he has for you, and you write it down and you wake up and you look at it, you pray over it, you meditate over it, man, like, it's, again, that's your roadmap.
Mm.
And so that right there, it lets you know, that anything that's outside of this, it's not for me, because this is what it is that God has for me in this time, this season. Now, don't get me wrong, things may change over time and you may have to pivot, but at the end of the day, you got to keep the main thing the main thing. And as long as you keeping the
Mm.
main thing the main thing, the outcome is going to be what the outcome. You can live with that. I can live with the outcome. One of the things that
Mm.
my son's coach says all the time, he say, guys, listen, whenever they're in a basketball game, he said, look, I don't care if we win by 100. I don't care if we lose by 100. He said, I just want you to give me all you got. And he said, I can
Yep.
live with the outcome as long as you
Yep.
give me all that you got, as long as we stick to what we came here to do, as long as we run these plays, as long as we do this and do. Listen, I don't care what the score is. I can live with the outcome. And so I've come to the realization when it comes to my life and what God has called me to do, as long as I'm living to what God has called me to do, the vision that he's given me for my life, bro, I can live with the outcome, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of the wins, regardless of the lows, bro, regardless of all that, because it's all part of it, And so that,
So
that's
good.
that's it.
That's so good. That's so good. That was, man, like I think about my gymnastics journey and getting cut from the team 4 times in 5 years and all of that. And I look back on it, it's like, okay, if I went back now, could I do better? Probably, because, I was a child. I was 18, 19 years old. I got
Yeah,
a new way of thinking, a new mentality. I mean, I could do better now, but I look back on that time of my life and I genuinely feel good knowing that I gave it absolutely everything that I had with
yeah,
what I knew at the time. Like, that was maximum effort that I've ever put into anything. And so there's zero regret, none. I don't look back and be, oh man, I could have done this, I should have, what if? I don't have any of that.
Yeah,
And that is the best blessing, or one of the best blessings I think we can have, at
man.
least in our earthly life, is
Yeah,
just being able to live a life without regret. But the
man.
problem is, you're never going to have regret from stuff that you, well, I don't want to say you won't have regret from things that you do. You're never going to have regret from going all in on something.
Yeah,
Like, regret is a choice that you can make. You
yeah.
can choose to live life in such a way that is conducive to having regret, or you can choose to live life in a way where at the end of the day, hey, I did everything I could. I was in alignment with what I believe in, with who I am, and what I stand for. And at that point, the outcome's the outcome.
100%, man. You know, when I was like 32, 33. My dad, my biological dad, called me out of nowhere. I ain't talked to this man. I couldn't even
Really?
tell you last time. And he calls me and he's like, "Hey, man, this is your dad. You know, I just want to call you and tell you I'm sorry. I regret everything." And he's going through this whole thing of how, you know, he just, man, I just wish this, I wish that, da da da, boom boom boom. And he was like, "Man, I'm sorry." And I just talked to him on the phone. I said, "Hey, man, listen, I forgive you. Um, I don't regret anything that happened because honestly, I needed all of that to happen because that's what
Yeah.
made me who I am today. You know, and I said that's why I'm able to do what I do now. And just understand that I forgive you, and I appreciate this call. And but at the end of the day, man, like I realized in that moment, bro, that was for him. That wasn't for me because you know what's crazy about 2 weeks later he died and I was
Wow.
able to let him know that I forgive you. You know, like
Mm,
I let him know that hey, don't worry about the things that you can't change that's behind you. Let's look forward. Like, hey, I look
yeah.
forward to being a friend with you. I don't need a dad in my life at 32 at that time, right? Because I'm not 10 no more. But what we can do is develop this friendship and still do that. But I told him straight, like, man, I don't regret nothing. Like
Mm,
I'm almost honestly as crazy and oxymoronish as this sounds. I'm glad it happened because I don't even know who I
yeah.
would be had it not
Yeah.
happened. So it's just, man, just keep your eyes forward, you know, and understand that everything that you've been through in your life and all those circumstances that you overcame, and even in those circumstances that you on the scoreboard look like a loss, man, you had to have that happen to you because that's part of your DNA. And that's what you cut from now. And so, nah, bro, B, you good, man. You need to.
Man,
I know you.
let me,
You cold. I done seen you do them flips, bro. God.
man, let me say this to anybody who might be listening. And I'm just going to talk to the old me,
Yeah.
right? Because the old me 6, 7, 8 years ago really had this belief that a lot of this mentality that we're talking about right now. Everything happens for a reason. All these things contributed to who I am today. You know, I had that mentality that this is a psychological coping mechanism,
Mm.
right? And it's just it's a way for us to deal with the tragedies and adversities of life. I think there's a certain point in life that you go through where you understand that it's actually more illogical to believe what I just said than it is to believe that things actually have happened for you for a very particular purpose and reason to build you into the person who's capable of doing whatever you've been called to do.
Yeah.
And if you're not at that point yet, keep going. Because
Absolutely.
I really believe I've talked to enough people who have just been through this experience at this point. It happens for everybody. If you don't stop, if you keep going, it will happen for you. You just have to stay in the game long enough. It
Yeah.
is not some sort of, psychological trick. It really is. Things were very deliberate, very intentional to create the right person to complete the right calling and the right assignment. I really, really believe that.
Yeah.
And I think too many people quit before they get to that point. I
Mm.
think too many people turn back before they get that evidence and that proof of the unseen that they're always searching for.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think if you just would have kept going, you could have had your breakthrough, you know, just one more step. But it's just, man, it's tough, you know. But at the end of the day, like that's why we have to rely on God and understand that greater is He that is in us than He that is in the world. And whenever I am weak, He is strong, you know. And just
Mm.
so that's the thing, man. I'm telling you, like without Him, bro, like I would be a wreck, you know. So that's why I always had to point it back to him, man. I don't have no others. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I hate to sound magic and hocus pocus and all that, but man, listen, it's Jesus. I don't know what else to tell you. Like,
I love it. Okay, so we have a nice little stint as a Christian rapper, right?
yeah,
That nobody
yeah,
knew was a Christian rapper, but you were. Okay, so that's cool.
yeah.
And then Man, I'm still hang on. I got to go back to that because I'm still so interested in this. What was the biggest crowd you ever played in front of?
We was in Spokane, Washington, in front of around 15,000.
What's
Yeah,
that experience like?
man, I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, and the crazy part of it is this: when you go from this is when I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and so when you go from the East Coast, which is the furthest east you can go is North Carolina, to
Yeah.
the West Coast is Washington. Up was it Northwest United States, Spokane, bro. You think ain't nobody gonna know who I am when I get up here? You know what I'm saying? And like, man, to come out there, and I used to like do this thing on my songs. I had this ad lib that I would do. I'd always say, "Jill, baby," like I would just scream it like Jill, like just like this is like I was like the Christian version of Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. I was like like I would just cry. Man, ask CJ. CJ knew my music back in the day. Like, ask him, he'll tell you. And bro, when I came out on stage and when I hit him with the Jill, baby, I didn't go scream it for your. I don't want to mess up your stuff. I was really finna scream it, but I didn't want to mess up the speakers. Man, the whole crowd just went stupid. And like after we did that song, because I had a couple of my buddies with me, we was in a group, and man, after we did that song, they just kept like bringing us back on stage, like they just wanted us to keep doing that song. And I remember I had this thought in my mind because bro, I was on some Monster Energy drinks that night too, just to be crazy. And man, I'll never forget it, man. I was like, I had this moment, this thought in my brain. I'm just gonna be honest with you. They encored us on stage. Keep in mind, our normal set is about 30 minutes, and it's just all crazy. Excuse me, like wild running on the stage. I mean, just crazy energy. And they just kept like encoring us back. So the dude over the show was like, "Bro, just go back, just." And I remember I was sitting there, and I was like, "Tonight's the night I'm gonna die." Because bro, my heart, like bro, I was like, and I was at bro, my like I was at such a like an out of body experience that it was one of those. I just said, tonight's the night. I'm gonna die on stage. I just remember having this thought. I was just like, man, if it all ended tonight, my life was incredible. If I die on this stage, and then as I'm sitting there like thinking this dumb stuff in my brain. Then I realized I was like, "No, fool, you got a wife, you got a kid, you got to go back to North Carolina. You can't die tonight." And then I said, "You have 10,000 people see you fall on this stage." I was like, "Nah, you can't go out like this, player." So I was just like, but no, man, it's one of those things, bro. Like, I feel like one day I'm gonna be that old man rocking on my on my porch, and I'm gonna be talking to all my grandbabies. And I'm like, you know, your granddaddy used to be a rapper, right? Like. And they gonna be like, "No, you wouldn't, granddaddy, shut up!" Like I'm gonna have them on my knees sitting there rocking them. They gonna be looking at me like I was like, "Go, put me in YouTube. Y'all still got YouTube in these days? Or you got Spotify? Go look your granddaddy up. You know, I'm gonna be using his street cred one day. You know, I still got some videos out there. I'll shoot them to you. That way you can see me on stage." But no, it was incredible, man. To this day, like, man, that era of my life, bro, was so amazing, man. Like, so amazing. So grateful that God gave me that opportunity. Because, like I say, how many people can say they did that, man? Like I ain't, I wasn't Jay-Z or nothing, but man, I felt like it sometimes in front of them crowds. I mean, because we would always rock out like good crowds,
Yeah.
like always. 'Cause again, we wasn't like the main attraction, but we opened up for the main attraction. So
Yeah.
hey, you couldn't tell me I wasn't the main. You couldn't tell me I wasn't the main attraction. They call me the amazing Caucasian. Hey, you better not steal that, B. I know you be out there lifting your whole body up on 2 fingers and you got all your veins popping out on your videos, but I'm coming for you. I'm gonna be able to do that too.
You're so stupid. Okay, so what? I'm dying. Why did that? How did that phase of life come to an end? Like, what was the transition point where we kind of closed that chapter, and what came next after that?
Yeah, man. So we made the bulk of our money off of CD sales, and once everything went digital, like I just realized I'm like, man, I'm not, unless you're like a big time artist. These people don't understand when you stream music, bro. They're not these artists unless you're like the upper echelon artist, like a Toby, like a Jay-Z, like a bro. You got to be on that level to actually get an ROI on all them streams, and so it's a whole lot easier when you got CDs and somebody's in that moment at a show. And you're like, yeah, these CDs is $25 a piece, and they sitting there just selling out, and you selling shirts. And man, I remember we was getting on an airplane coming back from Spokane, Washington. It's a crazy story, bro. we was getting on the airplane to come back. I found out real quick that when you are at an airport, they will not let you go through TSA if you got over $10,000 cash on you. And so what I had to
Mm.
do, I looked at the dude behind me. It'd be like me not knowing who you was. I'm like, hey, bro, I took the money. I had a stack of money. And I went like this. I said, hey, bro, can you carry this just right through there? And when we get on the other side, you just hand it back to me. Because the dude at TSA, he was like, now once you get past here, I don't care what y'all do with it. I was like, hey, man, I'll give you $100 if you'll just, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, but that's what I'm saying, bro. You do shows like that, and then you go to like selling product and all. And I realized, man, I just kind of foresaw it. All the new cars were coming out; they didn't have CD players in them, and I was just
Mm.
like, man, like the level that I was at, I just knew that it was just. And plus, I was getting older. I was just like, man,
Mm.
I'm not Eminem. I'm not, whoever. Name somebody that's the top of the game at that time, bro. And too. What was the dope thing about it was that it was cool because that's really when God was exiting my hip hop career on stage left, but that's when he brought me into the speaking career. And so I was actually
Mm.
really open to that. That's when God opened up the door for me to go to barber college, entrepreneurship. So it wasn't like woe is me or cry for me Argentina type of deal. It was more like, okay, like this was a season. Like I'm blessed that I got to do this for all the years that I did, because most people never got to do what I did on that for as long as I did, and got the
Yeah.
experiences that I got with that. And so it was just one of those, man, I'm cool. Plus my son was getting a little bit older,
Mm.
and my wife, she would have told me to stay out there as long as I wanted to, because she always been supportive. Love you, baby. She over there right now. I had to shout her out real quick. She went like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I got a good buddy of mine who was the drummer for TLC. So he's the guy
Oh,
that was playing drums on Waterfalls
yeah,
and all that. Yeah,
yeah.
funny enough, we connected on Instagram like 6 years ago when I was still in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
because he was just getting into calisthenics. And
Mm,
so he wanted to learn how to do a handstand, and he just slid into my DMs and he was like, "Hey man, do you have any like tutorials or advice on this kind of thing, YouTube videos, whatever?" And I was like, "No, but let's, call me, because I had like 2,000 followers at the time, so nobody knew who I was, and I had no clue who he was. So I was like, yeah, call me, let's talk about it. I found out who he was, and I was like, holy crap, this guy's like somebody big time. But he was telling me the same thing, that when the streaming stuff kicked in, and obviously he was probably a little bit before that, but he was like, man, you get pennies on the pennies, not even pennies on the dollars. You get
bro,
pennies of pennies. And he
man,
was like, that's why touring is so big. So if you're not the headliner of the tour, you ain't making any money in music right now.
that's right.
So yeah, that whole world's kind of crazy.
But yeah,
So
I got a question for you. This just came to
yeah.
mind. I just gotta ask you. I've had people slide in my DMs before. How is it? How did you feel when a man slid in your DMs and asked you to teach him how to do a handstand? I just, out of all the stuff somebody can ask, hey, bro, I'm just trying to. He put the eyeballs in there first, and then he's like, yo, you teach me how to do a handstand. By the way, you remember me? I'm the TLC drummer, bro. I can't even imagine people DM me like, yo, what's the Chinese restaurant up in Bentonville? I'm like, yo, man, you gotta go to this one. But I ain't never had nobody hit me up want to do a handstand. That's a new one. I like that.
Hey man, Instagram is a weird place because there's just no filter. People just
Yeah.
say what they want, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no repercussions for it.
Right, 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 right.
Like unless you screenshot it and share it with the world, but even then it's like, okay, who cares? But like there's no repercussions for it the way that there is in real life. So he was cool. He was cool. You gotta feel that kind of stuff out though, because I definitely get some people that'll slide in the DMs, just be like, can you sell me this? Can you do that? I'm like, nah, you gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
But you can always tell. It's like poor salesmanship, to use your term. It's the same thing though. It's like you can tell when somebody slides into your DMs and they're starting a conversation, but the only reason they're doing it is because they're trying to pitch you. They want to sell you on something. It's the
Right.
same thing with that sort of thing. It's like you can tell if somebody's trying to get something from you. That's why I'm always like, lead with genuine interest and genuine value, because people will know. Like even with my thing with ET, if he had sniffed out with the amount of people who say, "Hey, I'll work for you for free," like I
Right.
wasn't the only one who offered to work for ET for free. Everybody offers to do that.
Yeah.
If he could have sniffed out, "Oh yeah, you just want something from me," is it's not going to go anywhere,
Right.
right? But the fact that he was, or that I was legitimately like, "No, I just want to learn. Like I just want to do literally any job you give me. If you need somebody to go clean your toilets, I got you. Like I don't care." People can feel that genuineness. So this guy, his name's Tom. He was the
Right.
same way. He was like, bro, I just really want to learn. And the funny part about it was the post that he responded to was me making fun of a guy named Frank Madrano. and he's got like 2 million followers. He's big in the calisthenics world, and his handstands are terrible. They suck. He doesn't know what he's doing. And like, if you're just like a street performer or whatever, then cool. Like, yeah, learn how to hold yourself upside down. If you want to learn how to do a real handstand, I was like, this is trash. And so that's what the post was about. And that was his response, was finally somebody called him out on this
Oh
mess. So
God,
yeah.
oh beef.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, internet beef
my handstand
between
better than yours. No,
yeah, two shirtless men on the internet talking
God.
beefing about handstands. Yeah, that's 2024 for you. All right, give me back on track, Mike. Give me back on track. After the touring, after the rap and all that good stuff, you go to barber college next.
Yeah.
What's that journey?
Yeah. I went to No Grease Barber College in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to Mr. Charlie, Dane, Jay, all my mentors to this day in business. Learned the business of barbering.
Now let me stop you right there. What was the? Because I feel like most people, there would be a trigger that would make them want to go into that kind of business. Was there anything like, is that something you'd always wanted to do, or?
Man, to be honest with you, man, I remember like it was yesterday. Before I ever went to barber college, I never even turned on a clipper. Never touched a clipper in my life.
Wow.
I was getting on 485 in Charlotte, and I was having one of them moments where I was going to this job that I hated tremendously. And I was like, man, something got to give, man. I'm over like yelling at myself, pulling myself up, and I was just like, Lord, what can I do? Like, show me something that you think I'd be good at. I want to be around people. I want to be able to have like, my own schedule, like, all the stuff that. And I just felt like God told me go to barber college. And one of the things is this: whenever I was on tour to kind of make it make sense, I always had it to where in one of our writers, if we went to like a bigger show, I would have them when they picked us up from the airport to take me to a barbershop in their community. Because the thing that I love about barbershops is that a barbershop will show you what the temperature of a community is. Because you go in there and you can see any and everybody. You can see what they like, what they don't like, how they act. Just like in that community, there's more barbershops in communities than there are churches and mosques and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And so that's how I would like see, okay, so this area, they kind of turned up, so I might need to go this route with my song list. Or, this one, really, we in Atlanta, so we got to turn all the way up. And so I always just love barbershops. I love the culture of barbershops. I love how, you got the one dude in there, he don't ever cut hair, so people make fun of him. You got the dude that's in there getting money. You got the people coming in there selling you bootleg DVDs. You got the fake colognes in there, the oils, the plates.
Don't forget the Jordans. People coming in selling fake Jordans.
The fake Air Forces. You got the plates. And so, man, it's almost like it's just like a gumbo, like a melting pot, man. And so I've always just loved barbershops. I could go into a barbershop, man, and just sit all day and just listen and laugh. And so I said, you know what? I felt like God said, go to barber school. So I was like, God, Heather ain't going to say yes to this. I was really putting it on my wife, So I called Heather. I said, hey, guess what? I said, I feel like God told me to go to barber college. What you think about that? And I'm literally thinking she's finna say, no. I'm literally thinking she's finna like, heck no, we ain't got time for all that. We ain't got, because it takes a year of your life. So essentially, I would have to quit that job. And bro, like she gonna have to take care of me for a whole year. So I just didn't think that she would be ready for all of that, especially with us having a baby that's like a year or two old. He's young. And so she literally says, I think that'd be a great idea. And I was like, huh? And so she said, only thing is because my wife is a news anchor in Charlotte on NBC at the time. And she said, look, I just need you to be able to go to school between these certain hours because, I'm on air. And she's like, Mike, I cannot miss work. Like I'm on air, I'm on the desk, so it's like one of those, there is no, bro, you have to be here with the kid. There's nothing. I said, so she gave me the hours. It was between 11 and 8, and most schools are like 9 to 5, 8 to 3. And so I go to this barber college and it was so dope, man. To this day, the young lady, she's a barber now. She was a student at the time. If you know anything about Wilkinson Boulevard, west side of Charlotte, it's just a very dope, unique area in Charlotte. And so I walked in there and I said, yeah, I'm here to learn more about the school. And she looked at me because I was the only white guy in the building. She was like, I think you meant to go to the other barber college on the other side of town. And I was like, no, I want to go to this barber college. My house is only 5 minutes down the road, boom, boom, boom. So she goes and gets the owner, Mr. Johnson, and he comes out and he says, can I help you? And I said, hey, I want to go to barber college. He was all excited. He's like, yeah, man. He said, I only got one spot left, though. And I said, okay. And I said, well, man, the hours. And he said, well, this is the only one I got. So he pulls me into his office. He said, it's Monday through Friday, 11 to 6. And he's like, I got one spot.
Wow.
And he was like, you're going to have to sign up today if you want. I got somebody else that just came, like just left about an hour ago. So if you want it, you got to do it today. Man,
Oh,
I
he's
didn't have no
selling.
money. Man, I just signed up. I went and did all the FAFSA because you could get FAFSA, and all that government help, like as far as like
Mhm.
loans. And so, man, God just opened the door, man, like miraculously. And it's cool because, you know, how do I say this? For a lot of us, we stand on our talents and our abilities, and bro, and so we're able to like get through a lot of things. We're able to a lot of doors are open up just because of who we are. You're charismatic, you got energy, people love you. But man, this right here, bro, I've never done this in my life. So this was one of those things. Not that I never fully relied on God up to this point in my life, but man, I'm really finna have to rely on God now because I ain't never touched a clipper. And so it didn't matter how
Mm.
dope I was as a person or my name or who knew me, who didn't know me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yo, like God, if you called me to do this, then you're gonna have to also show me how to do this. And it was
Mm.
so uncomfortable, and it put me in a different place with God to where it's like, I'm gonna have to get closer to him and lean into him because my natural abilities, my natural talents, my natural giftings is not going to help me on this stage. And so that was
Mm.
really dope too, though, to be in an uncomfortable situation, and now I'm thriving, man. Like it's crazy because that taught me too. It's like, hey, just because something isn't naturally for me, that don't mean I can't do it. That don't mean I can't educate myself and go learn how to do it. And so that's been really cool too. So I can, teach other people that, like talk to them about it. Like, hey, you know me as the barber, but before I became a barber, I never would have became a barber. So you can't tell
Mm.
me you can't do X, Y, and Z. You just making the decision not to, you know? And
Mm.
so, yeah, man. So that's how I got into barbering though.
Man, I love that. I love how much you trust. It's funny, we were talking about that last night on our other call. How much you just trust those callings, those pulls, those little whispers of the soul. You just go with it. And I think that's the mark of somebody who's got strong faith, and it's the mark of wisdom, because at the end of the day, it's like, who are you to doubt what your own soul is trying to tell you? how
Right.
how arrogant do you have to be to say, nah, I know I'm a part of this big crazy universe and everything's interconnected and all so on and so forth, but I still think that my intentional logical brain is going to be able to get me through all this. It's like, there's a
Yeah.
place for it. You got to be able to think, but I mean, just that trust is so important. And now you're kind of doing another one of those transitions, right, with the NIL company.
Yeah, yeah. So my wife and I, along with our friends Crystal and John, we started an NIL business together, Guiding Life Sports Agency, where we go and we negotiate deals for college athletes and just making sure that they get what they deserve for their name, image, and likeness. Now that with the whole circuit of the sports world changing in college sports, and so that's been really cool too, man. And the funnest thing for that for me is that I get to do it with my wife. We've always wanted to build something together because Heather's always been there to support me in everything that I do. And honestly, like she don't get enough credit that, even when I was in school, like I said earlier, like when I was in barber school, she held me down, bro. Like without her, I
Mm.
couldn't have did it. So it's really cool to like do something with my wife now, with some of our good friends, and help out some athletes and educate local businesses on how this will benefit their business, and then and just make it a win-win for both parties. And so I've always wanted to be like a sports agent when I was in high school. That was actually one of my dreams. So it's kind of cool how full circle it's came that now I'm actually a sports agent with an agency, and I'm able to represent athletes, and I get to represent my favorite team, which is players on the University of Arkansas football team, basketball team. Because that was a dream of mine to play for the U of A. So it's cool that even though God didn't give me the right mamas and daddies to make me 6'3", jack like you, and that way I could be a D1 athlete. It's cool how full circle that God still gave me the desire of my heart to be able to go in them facilities,
Mm.
to still walk through them facilities, to still serve those guys, whether I'm cutting their hair, whether I'm giving them advice, whether I'm leading them to NIL deals, and just, man, I'm telling you, I'm just living the dream, bro. Like I ain't got no type of complaints whatsoever. It's fun. Like I'm just having fun, bro. And that's where I'm at in life, just fun.
So important. I think a lot of people lose that sense of fun when they start chasing different career goals and they start getting, deeper into things. The world takes that almost childlike sense of fun and that whimsical spirit away. And I think it's so important to hold on to that. I wanted to ask you about Heather real quick.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know how tapped in you are to like the the manosphere, right? The kind of corner of the internet that's dedicated to 18 to 30-year-old dudes. But marriage is on the decline, right? Like there's more and more of these voices out there saying, don't get married, focus on yourself, you don't need anybody, wait, and then of course you got your Andrew Tate type people who are like, well, just, completely on the other side of the field on that. And it's like, how important is that relationship? I know you said, she was kind of the one holding you down as you were going through some of these transitions. How important is it? And then what are things that young men in particular should be looking for in that partnership type of relationship?
Yeah, man, I think the biggest thing, me and my wife, I feel like we're a good team. I feel like that, she's my motivation. There's times that, we as humans, we all get down and out. I believe that she's anointed. I believe that she's called. I believe that she is a leader as much as I am. I don't feel like that I'm over her. I don't feel like I'm greater than her. The Bible says that I might be the head of the household, but she definitely the neck that's holding this heavy head up. You know what I mean? So, like, I just, man, like for me, I think the biggest thing is just knowing that God put you with somebody, and God created me to love her to love me. And, we all go through relationships, to get to a certain relationship. It ain't like, it's real rare you find somebody like, yeah, I just met her in the pre-K and we just, we've been together ever since. You know what I mean? But it's like, I think she makes me strong where I'm weak, and I make her strong where she's weak. Now, she may tell you she ain't weak because she's strong as all get out. Like, she's stronger than you be on them bench. She can do all that stuff. No. But, man, I would say to people, man, like, God created us to not be alone. Like God created, he created Adam and Eve for a reason. That's a helpmate. They supposed to help one another. They're supposed to multiply. They're supposed to build lives with each other. They're supposed to, and so I feel like, I get all the, hey, work on you. Man, listen, like I'm working on me every day, but I realize that, the strength in numbers, so whenever I have my wife and she has me, and there's days that I don't want to go or she don't want to do it, bro, like we're Eric Thomas to each other, or she's Sean Strickland. Like, that's her coach. That's her Eric Thomas in her life. To her is Sean Strickland. So I'm Eric Thomas to her. She's Sean Strickland to me. You know what I mean? So it's just, we, like I say, bro, we just love each other. And without each other, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, because she also is a media coach. She also has her own businesses. She also hosts events. I mean, bro, you need to get her on an interview on here one day, because you think I'm cool, man. She gonna blow you out the water. Like I can't even like hold her shoes. You know what I mean? So it's just, she's off the chain. She's a great mother, great wife, great daughter, great friend, all the above, man. Like, and like I say, we make each other better. And so I wouldn't be doing 99.8% of none of this without her. And I might as well just say 100, just so that way, if she listening,
round up.
She heard me, I'm gonna round up.
I love it, man. Listen, I feel like we could talk for another hour and a half, but we've already been going for an hour 13. So, man, where can people find you if they want to get more content from you, if they're interested in working with you, they know somebody that maybe the NIL thing could be a good fit for? How do people get in touch with you?
Man, you just go to CoachShelton.com. You can go to IG, Arkansas Barber. I have a actual coaching page on there. It's Coach Shelton. Just type in Mike Shelton. It's gonna pull me up. It's real easy.
I love it. I love it, man. Oh, one more thing. I forgot. I should have written this down, but you spent a lot of time talking about scripture, talking about how much you trust God and how that's played such an important role in your life. Give me like top 2, maybe 3 scriptures and what they mean to you, kind of rapid fire.
Yeah, man, John 3:16, obviously, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, whoever believes in him should not perish, have everlasting life. That one. Habakkuk chapter 3, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, to prosper you, not to harm you. Hold on, no, chapter 3, write the vision down and make it plain. Sorry. And then Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. My bad. I was saying that, and I was thinking of that one, but those are probably the 3 that I really, because the John 3:16, that's just the basis of all of Christianity. You have to believe that Jesus, came from heaven to earth, died, rose again. But yeah, man, those are probably my top 3.
I love it. I love it. Everybody that's listening or watching right now, I say this at the end of every single episode. Every day means every day is not about learning stuff. It's not about thinking and philosophizing good ideas. It's about taking action. And Mike just gave us so many things that we can begin taking action on today. So please don't listen to this episode and say, oh, that sounded really good. I got to go watch his songs now, or go find his old rap videos. No. Do that for sure, but also go apply some of this information that he gave us today. Go give him a follow on social media. Check out CoachShelton.com. Tap into what this guy's doing because I really believe it's a blessing to the world and only good things can come from it. So with that being said, appreciate y'all watching. Every day means every day. I will see you on the next one.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace.